At the end of Saul and Barnabas' first missionary journey, they came back to Antioch, and in chapter 14 of Acts gave a report of the grace of God for the work which they had completed. And they reported all that God had done for them and the doors that he opened. I forgot my clicker. And that's what we're going to do this morning. And I hope that you are encouraged and that you'll glorify God by these things. Earlier, when Peter reported to the church back in Jerusalem about what had happened at the house of Cornelius, it said they glorified God that repentance had been granted to the Gentiles. And again, that's something that I hope that this lesson will, that this report will cause you to do. Hope it will help you to find the glory of God, that you'll be encouraged by these things, and that maybe we can learn a few things together about doing some work like this. Let me begin by telling you all that 1 year ago, Teresa and I had no idea we were going to be moving to Freetown, Sierra Leone. We've known Dan and Sonia Kane for many years. As a matter of fact, in 2022, we spent 2 weeks with them when they were living in Bo, Sierra Leone. They've lived in Sierra Leone since 2020. And so we went to visit them. It is 20. Yeah, that is right. 21. It's 21. So Dan and I, again, we've known each other for a while, and we were at a camp together in Indiana. And it was Sunday, the first day of that camp, and I was in the cafeteria, the mess hall, and Dan standing there, he says, "Hey, I've been thinking about you and Teresa." And I said, "Yeah, why?" And he said, "Well, you've told me before that y'all would kind of like to think about the opportunity of maybe moving to Sierra Leone and maybe some place where they're going to speak English." He said, "I'm about to move to Freetown, and I believe that in moving to Freetown, if you move to Freetown with us, that you can have all the English-speaking studies that you could handle." And so I remember standing there in the mess hall, because Teresa is working in the kitchen right over there, and I remember standing there thinking to myself, all right, Simon, you got to make a decision. Do you want to move to Sierra Leone? Because the moment you go tell your wife that we have an opportunity to move to Sierra Leone, you're moving to Sierra Leone. Many years ago, probably 5 years ago, Teresa, we were living in New York, we're living in Albany, which was a hard place to live. And she said, I think we need a bigger challenge. And I literally looked at her and said, "A bigger challenge than Albany?" Because I was scared. But we talked. I remember going in and telling her that, and the look on her face was kind of excited, but we waited a few months and we prayed about it a lot. We talked about it with each other a lot. We talked more with Dan and Sonia about it, and the other couple that was living there at the time, Sean and Abby Reich, who no longer live in Sierra Leone. And we decided we were going to move, and we took an exploratory trip in December of last year, and then we moved on February the 3rd of this year. Just to kind of give you an idea, so over here is Kentucky, and way over here is Sierra Leone. So there's Sierra Leone in West Africa. There's Liberia. This is the Ivory Coast, if you heard about that. Those of you old enough to remember Ghana, because of something that happened there back in the 70s. You might remember that. If you kind of zoom in on Sierra Leone, it's pretty round. This is where Dan and Sonia used to live, called Bo, and this is Freetown. Freetown kind of sits out it kind of juts out like a peninsula, because all of this is a mountain range, and it's called the Regent Mountain Range right there. And there's a big bay here called the Tigrin Bay. Because this is so mountainous, you can't put an airport over here. So the Freetown's airport is actually over here, and you have to use a ferry to cross back and forth. That's always Teresa's favorite part, is going across that ferry, especially our first time, because it was really choppy. You know, when you're getting on the dock is floating and the boat is floating, but the dock is doing this. And they're like, be careful, be careful, be careful. And we're sitting there. You know, Teresa has to take some Zofran for motion sickness, even when we're driving around the car. So sometimes. And so we're in that thing. We've been sitting in the boat for a little bit, and we've been moving for like 15 minutes. And Teresa asked me, have we started moving yet? Like, oh yeah, babe, we've been moving for a while. But that again, that's just part of it. Now, you can drive around the bay if you want, but that takes like 3 hours. So we don't do that. We live right there. That's where we live in Freetown. And the biggest part of the city really kind of wraps around this way right here on the flat part of the city. This is actually a satellite view of where we live. Right there it is. I know you all can't see this, but what's really cool to me when I found this on Google Maps is I know that this satellite picture was taken after we moved in. And how I know that, again, you can't see that, but right there is one white pixel. And that one white pixel is our Starlink dish. So I know we were living there then. So you notice there's two houses. Maybe you can see there's two houses. Dan and Sonia live in the larger house. They've got 4 girls, and we live in the smaller house on the compound. And this road here is paved, but everything else is dirt. And I'll show you a shot of that in a second. Now, this is Dan and Sonia and their family. This is actually them in their house in Bow shortly before they moved. But I like including this one because we get Ebony in the picture. Ebony's our guard dog who will lick anybody to death. But we don't tell the Sierra Leoneans that. The Sierra Leoneans come on our property and they act afraid. And I'll use to say, if you just walk with me, you'll be okay. And really what I mean by that is Ebony won't jump on you and try to get you to pet her. But anyway, this is a better shot of them. So again, this is Dan and Sonia, Eden, Epaphra, who we call Appa. This is Everly. They had no idea there were Everly brothers when they named her Everly. How is that possible? And this is Amelia, the newest one. Now, Appa was actually born in Sierra Leone, and the others were born in the States. So again, they've been a tremendous help to us in all of this. This is our neighborhood. And so I'm standing in my office, the second floor window, looking out over this street scene. So this is a lady right here named Hawa, and she sells like chicken and fish and bread and little treats. And she's become kind of like a friend. Every time I walk past her, she asks me, how's Auntie Tricia? Instead of Teresa, how's Auntie Tricia? It's the rainy season right now, and this is what our road looks like in the rain. And so all this water comes down this way, and if you go back up this way, it's a hill, and all that water rushes right down the hill over here. This is the main gate that we use. We have a bigger one for vehicles. So then this is a shot like, so if you were standing by that gate we just saw, and you turned around and looked, and so this is Dan. I keep hitting the wrong button. This is where Dan and Sonia live. This is our house. This is 2 of the 3 water tanks that we have. And you see that blue pipe right there, that blue pipe collecting our rainwater going into this tank. There you can see our Starlight dish, a Starlink dish, which is just amazing for us to have. But that is all our water. If you've heard me talk about our drinking water, this is just 3,000 liters, and it goes between both houses. And so we don't have to pump so much. I always get our drinking water out of this tank right here. So I'll bring a 2-gallon bucket out, fill it up, take it inside and let it sit inside for a while. And then I pour it into a Berkey water filter. And I don't pour the last third of the water because the dirt settles down there. And I always empty it out, wipe it out, and I like to show Teresa all the dirt that was in the bottom of the bucket. We're collecting rainwater right now. And so the last time I filled that bucket and wiped it out, I held it to Teresa, no dirt. So that was pretty cool. It still goes to the Berkey though, don't get me wrong. So like I said, this is two of three. Here's the third one right here. So this is just another part of me standing in our compound. Once again, this is Dan and Sonia's house. That's our guard shack. We have a young man named Mamadou who spends the night with us, keeping us safe. This is our other tank. And so you see it collecting rainwater as well. And so what we have to do is this is our main source of water for inside the house. I call this the down tank and that one the up tank. There's a little switch right there on the side of this building, which is actually an outside bathroom really for Mamadou, our security guy. And so we have to pump this water back up the hill to that top tank to get our water. So we have a total of 3,000 liters of water. Right now we're harvesting rainwater. In the dry season, we have to buy water. It's probably the most expensive utility. Probably it's the most expensive utility we have. It's about for us and the Canes, we split it. It's $200 a week for water. So water was free in Albany. That's different. This is again a close-up of our house. This is kind of taking us in the house. Let me tell you all this. So you heard me say, if you were here for the Bible class, that our moving expenses were over $20,000 because everything that you see inside this house had to be purchased. I mean, we went over with 8 suitcases full of stuff, and that was it. So this is our living room. Here's the dining room. This right here, Sean and Abby gave us. It's like a cooler that runs on a battery, and this has been a lifesaver because every day our electricity goes off, every day. And sometimes it doesn't come on for 12 hours. Sometimes it comes on again in 2 hours. The longest we've ever went, I think, is 38 hours without electricity, and that's good. When other people hear we live in Hill Station, they're like, oh, you all have got good electricity there. Because there are some people in Freetown who can go a week and get electricity one day for about 2 hours. It's because there's rolling blackouts, but also the grid is really pushed beyond its limits. This is our little kitchen, and it is little, but it's very functional for the two of us. But it's hard for two of us to work in there together. This is my office, this is upstairs, and then across the hall is our bedroom. And again, all of this has been purchased. And yes, that is mosquito netting. We do have AC in our bedroom. If you know what a mini split is, we have a mini split. As long as electricity's on, the AC will run. But we still like to sleep in the mosquito nets. We don't have to worry just about mosquitoes. That's our main worry. But there's also this fly that lays its eggs, and if it gets on your skin, the larva goes under your skin to mature. So just think about that for a minute. And so we don't want no part of that. But again, we're very comfortable living here. It is hard. Somebody asked me, it's just hard. I lost 11 pounds living there just because of it's more physically exertion. And we sleep so much better because we're just tired. Everything is hard. Everything takes longer. This is a newly built house. But for the first month that we lived in it, we had people working at our house every day, fixing problems. And the main thing was we had leaks. We had leaks in the plumbing. The first time we turned on the faucet or the shower in our master bedroom, Water would not come out of the shower head. It would barely drip out of the handheld wand. So our plumber came and he said, well, you need a booster. So he put a booster on there, which increases the water pressure a little bit. Well, that uncovered leaks on different sides of the house. This is a concrete house. And so they had to bust through the tile, bust through the concrete, find the leak, fix the leak, patch the concrete, put new tile on. And don't you even think that the tile job looks anything like you would expect in America. I mean, it looks like I did tile. That's what it looks like. And this was a professional tiler who came and did it. It caused leaks to come through the roof. And I should have just put this picture up here. So this guy came to patch the leaks, or to patch the roof. He came with a bag of drywall, dry drywall, in a plastic bag about this big around. He used my water, my bucket, my ladder, my paint spreader to do his work. I have a picture of him in between coats, sitting in my chair with his shoes off and his feet up, watching his phone. It's just hilarious. He came back the next day to paint. He didn't have paint. He didn't have a paintbrush. He didn't have a roller. He didn't have a bucket. He didn't have a ladder. He used all mine. It's like, what are we paying you for, dude? But we paid him 100 Leones, which is the equivalent of $4. And he was very happy with that. So that kind of gives you an idea. Mr. Ali, our plumber, I told Teresa, I said, we're going to have to invite him to the holiday party because he comes to our house so much. Again, this is a brand new house, but that's just the way it is. But again, we still have it better than almost everybody in Freetown. This is our view. So if you're standing on our balcony and you're looking out to the left, this is what you see. Now, you move to the center, this is what you see. And then you look to the right, this is what you see. And this is the ocean. I know it's kind of hard to tell on a day like this. There aren't many clear sky days where the sky is clear. We got two problems. Pollution. Well, I guess we got three. We got pollution. We got this thing called the Hermaton, which is a large dust storm from the Sahara Desert. And then we have clouds. There are days where the cloud is so thick that you can't see any of these houses looking out the balcony. So that just kind of gives you an idea of what it looks like. This is our main transportation. Teresa and I do not own a vehicle, so this is our main transportation. Wrong button again. This is called a KK. And they like the way we say it. We're Southern, we're from Kentucky, so we say KK. And they say KK. And so every time we say KK, they're like, KK, But this is our main form of transportation. We have two drivers that we hire throughout the week, but also we walk down to the street some days and just flag one down, and you share it with 3 people. And let me just say kindly that when you're the smallest person in the KK and you got to sit in the middle seat, that's the worst. Let me just say that. This is streets. This is just, I thought you might like to see what the streets kind of look like in Freetown. This is kind of overlooking the city, and you can out to see the bay. And I didn't realize this until I was looking at this as a graveyard. I drive by this scene at least once a week, and in a minute I'm going to tell you a story, and I'm going to tell you that about this view. So if you kind of keep that in mind. Oh, I love showing this picture. Y'all know what this is? This is the furniture store where we bought most of our furniture. I ain't lying. We pull up, and these guys start yelling at us. Hey, come on up, come on up. And so here's the staircases. We walked up. My wife doesn't like heights either. But we had to walk around on this balcony thing to get over here to look at couches. And so this literally is where we bought I said most. I probably should just say some of our furniture. I like showing that picture. That describes Sierra Leone in a picture. This is just some street scenes, little girls in their school uniforms. Construction is everywhere, but it takes a really long time. Like this house right here has probably been under construction for 3 years, and they're just now getting the roof. This is where we go to church. This is the Priscilla Street Church of Christ. When we first started going there, it was common to have almost 200 members, but as we're getting closer to the rainy season, our 200 people there, as we're getting closer to the rainy season, it's more like 130. They are served by 2 elders. Dan recognizes this picture because Dan has visited the Priscilla Street Church of Christ in the past. And these are just some of the people. This is right after services are over. Y'all see that? Y'all see that? What the guy's wearing? Now, y'all might not remember this. I wouldn't expect you to remember this, but I told you when I was here before that Lexington for me is enemy territory. I'm born and raised in Louisville. I'm a Louisville fan. And so I saw this guy and I said, "You've got to be kidding me. Even in Sierra Leone, I'm going to see somebody in a UK shirt." And I go over and I take his picture and he says, UK. And I said, yeah, UK. In his defense, he thought it was for the United Kingdom. And I'm like, no, that's a college in Kentucky with some crazy fans. But I thought, again, I mean, come on. But I wanted to show you all that. So I'm kind of going to move in now to the kind of our teaching stuff. So even before moving to Freetown, Dan started this Facebook page, What Did the Bible Say? In Creole, what does the Bible say? That's what that means. And so Dan is fluent in Creole. And so he speaks Creole and he teaches Creole lessons on this Facebook page, and he asks people to comment. And so, for instance, the last one Dan put out was like April 17th. So far, he has gotten over 400,000 views of that video. He gets around 70 to 100 direct messages a day because of this. And so of that portion, there's a large portion of them that want to study the Bible together. And so if they speak English well enough, Dan will ask them, would you be interested in an English-based study? And if they say yes, Dan forwards the name to me. If it's a woman and they speak English, Dan forwards the information to Teresa. And then we try to set up a Bible study with these people who are responding. Teresa and I's expectation moving to Freetown was that it might take us the first 4 months just to get settled, and we might not study with anybody. And it took us about 2.5 months to get settled. And then after that, we started working on setting up studies. I think we both probably spent a week trying to set up studies with people in Freetown. And then since then, we've pretty consistently had studies with people. But even setting up studies with people in Freetown, in Sierra Leone, is hard. You will text them, say, hey, I hear you're interested in a Bible study. Yes, sir. Well, when would you like to study? Okay, sir. No, is there a day of the week that would be better for you? Yes. Okay, which day of the week would be better for you? Okay, sir. Okay, I can study with you either Monday or Wednesday. Okay, sir. No, you need to pick one. Okay, sir. Okay, is Monday good for you? Oh, yes, sir. Okay, is there a time that's better for you? Okay, sir. No, I'm asking you, is there a time that would be good for you to study? Yes, sir. When is it? Okay, sir. Okay, I can study with you at 5 o'clock on Wednesday. Yes, sir. Okay, we're going to meet at this place. That day, are we going to study together? "Oh, no, sir, I can't study on Wednesdays at 5." That's not atypical at all. And so just trying to work through that. And one of the things we have learned is you have to ask pointed questions, because in the Sierra Leone culture, it's better to tell you what they think you want to hear so they don't disappoint you than telling you the truth that might disappoint you. And I don't even think they see that as lying. They just see that as politeness. And so you have to ask very pointed questions. But in doing that, both Teresa and I have gotten studies. Dan recently said that between the four of us, between Dan, Sonia, me, and Teresa, that we were studying with over 30 people a week. And so that's pretty cool this early in our trip. And so I just wanted to talk to you about a couple of people that I'm studying with. So this young man, his name is John. John is also our KK driver. John is the first person to agree to study with me. And John and I do not study together because of the what in the Bible say. John would identify himself as a Christian, but he believes pretty much every false doctrine that's ever been taught. Number one, he's not receiving good teaching at the church where he goes. And number two, the other place he gets his teaching is the absolute worst place to get your teaching, and that's YouTube. You know, I know there's some brethren who do good things on YouTube, but there's some really horrible stuff on YouTube as well. So if you were here, John is the guy who we take our time very slow, but John is the guy who told me that the Bible is deeper than he ever imagined. This is Suleiman. Suleiman is by far the most intelligent Sierra Leonean that I studied the Bible with. I really enjoy studying with him a lot. I think this is cool. He used to be a Muslim. And I asked him, I said, well, what brought you to Christ? And he kind of giggled and he said, a girl. And I'm like, oh man, that's classic right there. I bet some of y'all sitting right here this morning like, yep, that's me too. That's where I come to church because of a girl. But he's very intelligent, knows his Bible well, but is very open to hearing things that are truth and being challenged in that. This building behind him is what they call a zinc house. I want y'all to imagine that you went out in the woods when you were a boy or a young lady, and you built yourself a fort out of sticks, and then you slapped corrugated metal all around the outside. That's where Suleiman lives. These are brothers, Bobo and Maury. So when Maury first contacted Dan and said he wanted to study the Bible, he told Dan he wanted to be a pastor. Now, that's a scary idea to me in Sierra Leone, because in Sierra Leone, there's a fraying. Not church, the money business. Church is how you make money. And so when I heard that Maury wanted to be a pastor, I asked him, first thing I asked him, why do you want to be a pastor? And he said, I want to teach the Word of God. I said, have you been to very many churches around here? And he said, yeah, I've been to all of them. So yeah, well, why all of them? He said, because none of the pastors there have been able to answer my questions about the Bible. And so I want to be a pastor and teach the truth of the Bible. And he has just been so open. Bobo, at our first study, at the end of our first study, he says to me, he says, would you like it if I invited more students? I'm like, oh yeah, I'd like it if you invite more students. So the next week, there are like 6 more people there. And every time I've been back, there's been multiple people there. And again, it's just been really cool. This is a hard place to get to, but it's so well worth it. This is our other KK driver, Alassane. And Alassane is Muslim. He speaks pretty decent English. He has been staying at this study with me and studying the Bible with me here. And we were pulling up the hill one day from after the end of the study, because I had talked a little bit to Bobo and Maury about baptism. And Alassane says to me, he says, I've met a lot of other Christians in Freetown who say that baptism is not necessary to be saved. But you showed me today from the scriptures that baptism is necessary to be saved. And I was like, so, Alasan, are you ready to be baptized? And he just giggles. And that's all he did. He just giggled. And I said, look, I'm not trying to put any pressure on you, but when you decide you're ready to be baptized, let me know, and we'll do it. Alasan is a widower, raising 2 little girls on his own. He is such a sweet and helpful man, and I do have hopes for him and John as well. This is Favor. She is Maury, and there's Maury back there. She's Maury and Bobo's sister. Asks great questions. She really does, and very sincere in trying to understand the truth. These are the Davids. So this is David Sandy, and this is David Manna. David Manna is a pastor in a Pentecostal church with a degree in theology. Mark 1:1 says, this is the beginning of the gospel of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. And I always ask, do you know what the word gospel means? Do you know what the word Christ means? David Manna did not know what the word Christ meant with a degree in theology. But so humble in that. David Sandy is the one who organizes the study. And let me just take a second to tell you all this story. If you read my report, you heard this story. So David and I agreed to meet. It's a hard place to get. I've got to ride 3 KKs, and then now I'm riding a motorcycle to take it to the last part. I'm not a motorcycle guy at all. But the first time we went, John took me, the first picture I showed you, John took me in the KK. It took 90 minutes to get there because of traffic. So I show up a half an hour late. David Sandy is no place to be found. And I start asking people, and they're like, yeah, he was here, but we don't know where he is now. I keep calling on the phone. He won't answer the phone. And so finally, I impatiently and arrogantly get mad, and I leave. 15 minutes later, he calls me and says, where are you? I'm like, dude, we agreed to meet at 5. It is now 5:45. I'm going home. He's like, please don't. I'm like, no, look, I'm in the middle of traffic already. I'm not coming back. I said, but listen, I said, I need to calm down a little bit, but let me calm down a little bit, and I'll think about this, and maybe we'll come back next week. Well, I came home. I vented a little bit, and I prayed about it. I went to bed. I woke up the next morning, and it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks that I needed to do 2 things. First, I needed to humble myself. The thing that I was most upset about was the fact that he wasn't there for me. And I thought, man, this is not about me. This is about the Lord. This is about the gospel. And then I had to determine I was going to do something that was very scary to me. And that was, I knew that if I was going to go back to this place, it's called Shell. If I was going to go back to Shell, that I was going to have to ride a motorcycle for the last part of the journey. It's about 3 miles. And y'all remember that street I showed you a minute ago? And I said, I just want you to get a feel for the street. Imagine there being traffic on both sides of that, stop and go traffic. And now you're riding in a motorcycle straight down the middle of that and weaving in and out. And mirrors are coming at you, and other bike riders are coming at you. And it is scary. And I'm holding on for dear life back here, with that sissy bar. And the Sierra Leoneans are working on their phone, in that same ride. But that cut that ride down from 90 minutes to 35 minutes, just to give you an idea. And this absolutely has become my absolute favorite study of the week. And if I hadn't done something outside of my comfort zone, if I hadn't humbled myself and realized that it's not about me, it's about them, it's about the gospel to them. And so I want to encourage you, humble yourself. Dan told me after this, he says one of his prayers is that God will use him as a bridge and that he will not mind being stepped on. Because if you're a bridge, that's what's going to happen to you. So now we're supposed to study at 5. I leave at 4. I usually get there around 5 and we start studying at 5:30. And David, both of these Davids are wonderful. David Sandy especially. But I want to tell you this one more story about this. So one day, David Sandy, he asked me, and this is how he said it. He said, "Is baptism a prerequisite to go to heaven?" And the whole time, David Manna is shaking his head no. And then he says, it's a good thing to do. It is a commandment, but it's not required for salvation. And I said, well, let's just see what the Bible has to say. And so I started at Mark 16, Romans 6, 1 Peter 3, some other places. I just had them read them. And I asked David Manna, the way you ask in Creole, what do you think? You say, how you see it. And I asked David Manna, how you see it. And he said to me, you've just shown me from the scriptures that baptism is essential for salvation. And I was wrong. I have no opinion. I'm going to stick with what the truth is. And I thought, wow, how humble and how wonderful. And David Sandy is just constantly saying, wow, the Bible and Jesus is so cool. The Bible and Jesus is so cool, and totally is. I wanted to share with you, because Teresa's doing a lot of good work as well. This is a young lady named Joy. John, the first picture I showed you, our KK driver, he actually is the one who brought Joy. You see, she's not looking at the camera. She is very shy, very sweet, but very intelligent. Teresa says she's also just full of false doctrine, but willing to listen and willing to learn. And then Teresa also studies with a lady named Olivia, and Olivia lives near our neighborhood. And so Teresa walks and catches the KK all by herself and goes about 2 miles down the road and studies with Olivia. And Olivia is just, again, really interested in what God's word has to say. She knows that she needs to be a better disciple and more disciplined in her life, and that's what she is searching for. And then this lastly is Esther. Esther is childlike, is what Teresa says. She's got some hard situations, but again, still really interested in learning the truth. You heard kind of what I do. What Teresa does is, in her initial studies anyway, is she lays some foundational principles for them. That there is a God, God has a will for us. Sin separates us from God. Jesus is the answer to that. She answers the question, who is God? Who is Jesus? Why did Jesus have to die? And so that's kind of what she studies with them. And then she will also then after that roll into a gospel or something to that effect. I think that is it. This is us in the back of a KK. And in Creole, this says, we tell God thank you for una and una plenty help them. And what that means is we tell God thanks for you. And that's actually y'all in Creole. We tell thanks to God for y'all and for y'all's many helps. And we do. We could not be there unless people like you in this congregation were generous to us and prayed for us. It is hard living there. And I will tell you straight up, there are many days I do not like living there. I don't. We didn't move there because we thought it was cool. We didn't move there because we thought it would be fun. We moved there because we saw a genuine need for the truth to be taught there. And the last thing that I want to encourage you to do is understand that this part of the world needs you just as much. And you need to do something this week to get out of your comfort zone to share the gospel, because there are people out there who want to know the gospel, who want to know the truth. They're just not sure anybody out there knows it. And so I want to encourage you to do that. Again, I know this lesson, this presentation hasn't been kind of typical, certainly not a sermon, certainly not the kind of thing that would make you think about your lost condition. But I just want to end by encouraging you to think about your own salvation. Maybe you're here this morning because somebody invited you, because somebody they stepped out of their comfort zone and just asked you to come to church with them. Maybe this is the first time that you've been here. Well, learn more about Jesus. Find out what Jesus wants you to do, and just do it. And don't worry about what other people are going to think. Be more concerned about what God is going to think about you. And maybe you're here this morning and you know you haven't lived right. And maybe even when you see the commitment that's been made for these things in Sierra Leone to happen, and you've heard about the enthusiasm that some of these folks in Sierra Leone has for hearing the gospel, and you know that your enthusiasm for the gospel, your enthusiasm for the Lord has just been waning. Man, change. Do what you need to do to change. Seek out your own opportunities to study with people. Here, maybe you feel like your knowledge isn't what it should be. There are people in this congregation who I know will study with you and encourage you and build you up in the holy faith. And if there's any reason at all that you would like the prayers of this congregation, and again, maybe not because I said, but just because you came here today and you know you're lost. And if you need to be baptized for the remission of your sins, do that today. Don't put repentance off another day, and don't put seeking the strength and encouragement that you need another day. If we can help you in any way to be right with God, won't you come as we stand and as we sing?